My brother laughed at my kind gesture. Now he's behind bars, his wealth has vanished, and karma delivered every bill he thought he could escape. I've always believed that kindness could transform even the bleakest moments of life, even when the world around me seemed to reward only ambition and ruthlessness. My name is Jake, I'm 32 years old, and as I sit here reflecting on the turbulent journey that has shaped my life, I feel compelled to share the story of how my unwavering compassion collided with the harsh realities of deceit and betrayal, and ultimately, how it led to an unexpected renaissance in my community. I grew up in a modest home where love and honesty were our guiding lights. My father, whose calloused hands bore the marks of years spent laboring with pride and perseverance, taught me the value of hard work and the dignity found in every honest endeavor. My mother, with her warm, soothing presence, instilled in me the belief that every small act of kindness could ignite hope in the darkest of times. In that nurturing environment, I learned to see beauty in every sunrise and solace in every shared smile. Yet, even amidst the gentle glow of familial love, there loomed a darker contrast embodied by my older brother, Arsène. From his earliest years, Arsène exuded a magnetic charm that drew people to him like moths to a flame. Even as a child, while I reveled in the simple pleasures of friendship and genuine connection, he displayed an uncanny ability to manipulate circumstances to his advantage. Where I was content to lend a helping hand or share a kind word, he learned to twist truths and bend rules, seducing others with promises of quick success and effortless power. As we grew older, our divergent paths became impossible to ignore. I devoted myself to community work, spending countless hours volunteering, supporting friends in need, and firmly believing that every act of generosity was a building block for a better future. I cherished the moments when a stranger's gratitude lit up my heart, or when the simple act of listening to someone's woes reminded me of our shared humanity. Meanwhile, Arsène's ambition took him into murkier waters. With a sharp mind and a silver tongue, he immersed himself in the underbelly of business, negotiating deals in smoke-filled rooms, forging alliances with unsavory characters, and constructing an empire built on deception and cunning. At family dinners, while I recounted small victories of community spirit and personal growth, Arsène would casually boast about his ventures, each story a dazzling mix of audacity and moral ambiguity. His words, dripping with both arrogance and a disturbing detachment, always served as a cruel reminder of the path I had consciously chosen to avoid. The turning point came unexpectedly on a cold, overcast afternoon. I received a call from Oleg, a friend whose voice was etched with both desperation and resolve. Oleg had once been close to Arsène, a trusted associate drawn into his orbit by promises of easy wealth and quick success, but now his tone was markedly different. He revealed that the empire Arsène had so meticulously constructed was nothing more than a fragile facade built on a foundation of lies. Over the course of our conversation, Oleg recounted in detail how he had unearthed damning evidence. Financial, ledgers with mysterious gaps, contracts riddled with inconsistencies, and whispered testimonies from those who had been swindled by Arsène's artful deceptions. As he spoke, a storm of emotions raged inside me. Sorrow for the brother I once admired, anger at the betrayal that had seeped into every corner of our shared history, and a reluctant, yet undeniable sense of vindication that truth was finally emerging from the shadows. In the days that followed, Oleg and I embarked on a painstaking journey to piece together the full extent of Arsène's illicit activities. Late nights were spent hunched over scattered documents in cramped, dimly lit rooms, our whispers blending with the rustling of paper and the quiet hum of a city that was blissfully unaware of the dark undercurrents at play. Each new piece of evidence was like a shard of glass, reflecting the fractured reality of a man who had long strayed from the path of integrity. I found myself wrestling with conflicting emotions, a deep-seated grief for the loss of innocence that my brother had once embodied, and a burgeoning resolve to ensure that justice, however delayed, would eventually prevail. It was a surreal, almost nightmarish process, each revelation a painful reminder that the line between ambition and corruption was often thinner than one might imagine. As whispers of scandal began to circulate and law enforcement took a closer interest in the mounting evidence, arson's once impenetrable fortress of influence began to crumble. I vividly recall the day when I found myself standing in a deserted, industrial area, the sky a heavy blanket of gray facing the man who had once been my brother. The air was thick with unspoken regrets and the weight of inevitable consequences. His eyes, once sparkling with the thrill of conquest, now held a glimmer of defeat, a silent admission that he had strayed too far, that the consequences of his choices had finally caught up with him. In that moment, the chasm between us, long, widened by years of divergent ideals, seemed insurmountable. His voice, laced with a bitter resignation, echoed in the silence as he muttered that perhaps I had always been too naive, too blinded by my own idealism. Yet even as his words stung, they reinforced my conviction that the path of kindness, though fraught with hardship, was the only way to truly redeem ourselves. The subsequent legal proceedings unfolded like a slow, inexorable tide. The courtroom became a stage where the downfall of a man who had thrived on deception was laid bare for all to see. Murmurs of disbelief and sorrow filled the air as the evidence we had painstakingly compiled was presented with relentless clarity. Each piece of testimony, every document, chipped away at the carefully constructed facade that had once shielded Arsène from accountability. When the verdict was finally rendered, a sentence of decades behind bars, the atmosphere was heavy, with mixed emotions. There was no triumphant cheer in my heart, only a profound sadness for the brother who had lost his way and for the dreams that had been shattered by a relentless pursuit of power at any cost. The sentence, though a victory for justice, was a stark reminder that the price of unchecked ambition was often paid in the currency of broken families and irretrievable lost time. In the wake of Arsène's downfall, our community was left reeling from the shock of betrayal. The scandal had not only unmasked a man who had built his fortune on the ruins of trust and exploitation, but had also exposed the vulnerabilities of an entire system that had allowed such corruption to flourish. I found myself thrust into an unexpected role, a reluctant custodian of hope in a time when despair threatened to engulf us all. Determined to restore faith in a society battered by deceit, I joined forces with Oleg and a group of like-minded individuals who shared a vision of renewal. Together, we established initiatives aimed at supporting the victims of Arsène's fraudulent schemes. In a small, unassuming community center that quickly became a haven for those seeking solace and guidance, we organized workshops and support, groups where survivors could share their stories and learn how to protect themselves from future exploitation. Every meeting was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even when faced with the crushing weight of betrayal, the seeds of hope could still take root and blossom. As time wore on, I began to witness a gradual transformation in the very fabric of our community. The bitter sting of deception was slowly replaced by cautious optimism. Faces once marred by sorrow began to soften into tentative smiles, and the shared experience of hardship forged bonds of solidarity among strangers. I listened intently to the stories of those who had suffered at the hands of Arsène's schemes. A small business owner whose dreams were nearly destroyed by his financial manipulations. A single mother who had lost her life savings and, with it, her sense of security, and countless others whose lives had been irrevocably altered. Their tales of loss, pain, and eventual resurgence became a collective anthem of resilience, a chorus that celebrated the possibility of rebirth even in the aftermath of profound betrayal. During these long, reflective hours, I often found myself wandering the quiet streets at night, the soft glow of streetlights illuminating the scars of a city in recovery. The silence of those nocturnal moments was both a balm and a stark reminder of everything that had been lost. I would walk for miles, mulling over the irony that the very trait my brother had mocked, kindness, had become the cornerstone of our healing. It was in those moments of solitude that I began to understand that true justice was not measured solely by the downfall of the corrupt, but by the restoration of trust and the rebuilding of a community's spirit. Every step I took was imbued with the memory of past wounds and the promise of future renewal. I sometimes reflect on what might have been if Arson had chosen a different path, a path where the lure of quick wealth was replaced by the quiet dignity of genuine human connection. In fleeting moments of introspection, I imagine him sitting across from me at our old family table, sharing stories of hope and redemption instead of schemes and betrayals. Perhaps in another life, the same innate brilliance that once shone in his eyes could have been harnessed for the greater good. But fate, as it often does, charted a different course. His descent into the murky depths of deceit became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that unchecked ambition can erode even the strongest bonds of kinship and trust. Yet, even amidst the lingering pain of his betrayal, I refuse to let bitterness define my future. Instead, I channel that sorrow into a steadfast commitment to rebuild, not just my own life, but the lives of those who were touched by his deceptions. I immerse myself in the work at the community center, dedicating long hours to counseling and outreach, determined to ensure that the scars of the past would not fester into lifelong wounds. Every story shared in those meetings, every tear shed in moments of vulnerability, reinforced my belief that the human spirit, though bruised, is capable of extraordinary healing. I began to see that our collective struggle was not in vain. It was the catalyst for a deeper, more empathetic understanding of what it meant to be truly human. In the months and years that followed, I watched as the community slowly reclaimed its identity. Neighbors who had once eyed each other with suspicion began to reconnect over shared meals and quiet conversations. Local businesses, scarred by the fallout of Arson's actions, found new life through initiatives that emphasized transparency and ethical practices. In every corner of our small town, there were signs of renewal: a mural painted by hopeful teenagers, a community garden nurtured by volunteer hands, the laughter of children playing in parks that had once been somber, reminders of past misdeeds. These everyday miracles, small yet profound, served as a constant reminder that even the deepest wounds could heal when tended with care and compassion. Even now, as I write these words with the weight of my memories pressing upon me, I cannot help but marvel at the paradox of life. The very qualities that had once made me vulnerable in a world ruled by deceit have become my greatest strengths. The journey from heartbreak to healing was not a linear one. It was a winding path marked by moments of profound loss, bitter regret, and unexpected grace. I have come to understand that every act of kindness, no matter how insignificant it might seem at the time, creates ripples that can alter the course of countless lives. In that sense, the legacy of my brother's betrayal is not solely one of despair. It is also a testament to the enduring power of resilience and the possibility of redemption. Tonight, as I sit by my window and watch the city breathe a little easier, I am filled with a quiet hope. The scars of the past remain etched in my memory, a permanent reminder of choices made and paths taken. Yet, with every sunrise, there is the promise of a new beginning, a chance to rebuild, to forgive, and to grow. I share my story not as a means of reliving old sorrows, but as a beacon for anyone who finds themselves caught between the allure of cynicism and the transformative power of compassion. In the echo of every shared memory, in the gentle murmur of voices coming together in solidarity, I find the strength to believe that even in a world that often seems indifferent to kindness, our small acts of love can ignite revolutions of hope. This is my story, a narrative woven from threads of heartache, resilience, and an unyielding commitment to do what is right. It is a reminder that every betrayal, every painful lesson, carries with it the seeds of transformation. Even as I continue to grapple with the shadows of my past, I remain steadfast in the belief that kindness is not a sign of weakness, but a formidable force capable of reshaping destinies. And so, with each step I take on this unpredictable journey, I honor the memory of what was lost by embracing the promise of what can be rebuilt. In every tear, every whispered confession, and every shared smile, there is a story of redemption waiting to be told. A story that, despite the darkness, ultimately celebrates the triumph of the human spirit. I write these words in the hope that they might resonate with someone, somewhere, who is struggling to find their way through a maze of betrayal and loss. May you discover that even in the midst of overwhelming despair, there exists an unbreakable light, one that grows brighter with every act of genuine kindness, every moment of shared vulnerability, and every step taken toward healing. For it is in the quiet persistence of compassion that we ultimately find the strength to transform our lives, and, in doing so, create a legacy of hope for generations to come. This is not merely the story of my past, it is a living testament to the power of forgiveness, the resilience of the human heart, and the belief that even the deepest wounds can one day become the foundation for new beginnings. Every scar tells a story, every memory carries a lesson, and every act of kindness has the power to spark a change that reverberates far beyond our own lives. And as I continue to move forward, I carry with me the conviction that, no matter how dark the night may seem, the promise of a brighter tomorrow is never truly out of reach. In sharing my journey, I hope to remind you that you are never alone in your struggles, that even when the weight of the past feels unbearable, there is always a way to rise again. The path to redemption is often paved with hardship and sacrifice, but it is also illuminated by the small, steadfast acts of love that have the power to heal, transform, and inspire. This is my testament to the enduring strength of kindness, AI, force that despite every betrayal and every loss, will always guide us home.